r/AskReddit by Reddit and chill. What's the most NSFW outfit you've seen that someone actually wore to work? The receptionist at a professional office I worked at thought it was okay to wear an oversized two-pack t-shirt with no pants and slippers to the office for her first official day. Overall very confusing because she wore a beautiful outfit for her interview. Edit. Yes. I am aware that I wrote t-shirt. And at this point I'm not going to fix it. That shit's hilarious. She can only make an effort for one day. Not quite up to the standards here, but the funniest one I have seen in the last few years was the day we had to sit through ethics and compliance training to be told about not accepting bribes and gifts, and one of my team turned up wearing all branded gear that he'd been gifted from one of his suppliers. Well, for the past 6 years I have been sleeping with him in exchange for discounts on our supplies and Outback Steakhouse gift certificates. Girl came into the lab with open-toed shoes. Ducking psycho. A girl in my master's biology degree course brought a water bottle into the first lab and picked a lab coat that was too small, so it only buttoned at the top. Kind of like a cape with sleeves. The lab PhD student got her a new one when she noticed the next day, but she still intermittently buttons only the top, meaning most of her front is not covered by a lab coat. We've been working with E. coli for most of the last 2 weeks. She has to be reminded every couple of days to tuck her headscarf into her lab coat, to the point where she was at risk of it falling over a lit Bunsen burner. She isn't the only person who wears a headscarf in my lab, and everyone else has had no issues. Again, we are master's students. Her poor choices in lab coats are far from the worst thing she's done. On Valentine's Day, a new hire dressed like Cupid. He wore a white shirt decorated with red hearts and a white tie with a large heart on the center of it. Then, his pants were also white, but with angels going up and down the legs. Everyone loved it, especially the female employees. But his supervisor told him to go home and change because it was a distraction. I am so glad he didn't dress how I assumed when I read Cupid. I was picturing a grown man wearing an adult's diaper with angel wings and a compound bow. A girl I knew wore a see-through mesh top to work without a bra in a call center I once worked at. Oddly enough, she wore it about 3 times before she was eventually pulled up about it. Can't think why. 3 more days of this and I'm gonna get mad. Not my fault this is happening. Playboy bunny outfit. I was a server at a semi-nice casual restaurant that was frequented by business people. It was Halloween and we were encouraged to wear costumes. One of our hostesses wore this and our manager didn't flinch until a customer complained. One butthole always has to ruin casual day at work. Wasn't a job but a job interview. I was doing a remote interview via Skype and the woman being interviewed was driving a car. She was so obese and she propped her phone up against the speedometer so she could use both hands to drive. When she set up the phone it was clear that she was wearing a very large and loose tank top with no bra and big ass sunglasses. At one point she asked me to wait and I said sure. Until I realized she was ordering food in the Wendy's drive-thru. When I called her out on it she tried to pick up her phone and dropped it between her legs. This is the moment my team lead and I saw her bare vagina. I just hung up and threw her resume away. And that was the interview that will forever be known as the one where she needed a Baconator to go with her taco. One of the agents I was teaching in a call center wore a dress so low cut and so short that when she moved the wrong way I saw everything. Another girl liked wearing corsets to make her boobs spill out of her shirt and hoodies that said inappropriate things like blow me. She couldn't understand why HR kept pulling her in for meetings. Damn it, Meredith. Where are your panties? Hospice central office. Secretary is looking to catch some doctor. Fishnet stockings. Skirt that shows the bottom of her ass. No underwear. Maybe a G-string. MD comes in and states, what? Is this a strip club now? I about fell out of my chair. Catch some doctors. Fishnet. P. Not really NSFW but not really for work either. Had a client coming in and the office manager told everyone to please dress very nice. A girl came in dressed in her prom dress. That's kind of adorable. NSFW in a different way. I worked in a law firm with a fairly casual dress code. Jeans and t-shirt were acceptable. But just barely. The legal assistants regularly took documents to the local county courthouse for filing. One legal assistant came in wearing a Duck the Police t-shirt. I wasn't his boss, but I couldn't resist telling him he couldn't wear that shirt to the courthouse. He borrowed a sweater from someone. I would love to see the reactions if they had. Court clerks probably would have laughed their asses off. When I was doing my teaching internship, the second grade teacher next door wore a leather miniskirt with black fishnet stockings. It was questionable, to say the least. I had a deaf student in my class once. Her interpreter dressed in 80s style leather miniskirts and black boots nearly every day. One girl wore a pair of black leggings that were so thin you could see the color and pattern of her underwear from 50 feet back. I remember when footless tights, as in pantyhose, were in fashion a while back. It wasn't too rare to see someone who'd picked up a pair thinking they were opaque leggings. I worked for an instrument supplier and was installing equipment at a customer site, pharmaceutical company. It was around Halloween and Hugh Hefner had just died. Lots of employees were going around, including in the lab space, dressed like Playboy bunnies. Not that their outfits were that skimpy, especially those who were in labs, but it was still weird seeing a bunch of scientists at work in bunny ears, boaties, and cottontails paying tribute to Playboy. Gender was not specified here, so I'm imagining that all the employees look like Danny DeVito, but with a lot more body hair. Smoking a stogie. I'm enjoying the mental image. No tits and ass here, but many moons ago I worked for Royal Mail as a postman. Had a new hire that came into work wearing high-heel platform boots. She didn't come back the next day because she didn't seem to understand that those items of footwear are not conducive to the amount of walking posties do, and managed to knacker her ankle. Also complained that carrying bags and putting mail through letterboxes was damaging her nails. Never saw her again. Sometimes you really have to wonder what the duck goes through people's minds. I saw a PA wearing a full-on porn actress schoolgirl uniform and walking up and down the office over and over. All the men were acting like dogs watching tennis on TV. What's a PA? A hentai hoodie. At high school there was a guy wearing a hoodie where a man was fingering a girl. Second-hand story from my husband. But a guy on another crew wore a two-piece safety suit instead of the one-piece like he was supposed to for the job. He slipped and fell on his ass in some caustic waste. Since it was a two-piece suit, it was able to leak into his suit and he AHD to basically run out of the job. Strip down naked. And have co-workers pour vinegar all over his lower half, including down his ass crack and on his junk. So remember, if you work a safety job, don't ignore the required gear. Sometimes the required gear seems silly, but they require it for a reason. Accidents happen, and in a worst case scenario, proper gear should save you. In a fairly formal office, the owner was holding an employee appreciation luncheon. Spouses welcomed. One guy's wife showed up in jeans so low cut you'd have been able to tell if she had a Brazilian or not except for the G-string covering the area. She had the body for it, but it wasn't the place to be showing it. Well, did she have a Brazilian? Mechanic wearing flip-flops. That shit ain't safe for work. I used to work with a surgeon who once burst into an operating theater in his pajamas and flip-flops. He had gloves on, but that's about it. No mask. No hat. No scrub. To be fair, the patient was bleeding to death and he answered the call for help. Saved her life. Gave her loads of antibiotics. Halloween party one year and a guy I worked with came in dressed as a cowboy and his technician, who he was having an affair with and was 20 years younger than he was, came in as a very scantily clad Native American. I worked in a very stuffy, old, and famous law firm. Last year on Halloween a very attractive young female attorney came in wearing a skin-tight black cat suit with cat ears on. It didn't show any skin, but it didn't need to. She was clearly not wearing a bra and her nipples were very visible. So was the fact that she was wearing a lace thong underneath. This was the kind of office where men wore ties every day and women wore skirt suits or pantsuits at all times. Nobody said anything to her as far as I know, but it was whispered about for a while. I try very hard not to sexualize my coworkers. who are all brilliant and accomplished lawyers and not objects of fantasy. But that costume made me ask, why not both? I have a similar story. Except not so sexy. I used to work in a pretty reputable, internationally known consulting agency. It was Halloween and we were all told not to dress up. We see clients regularly on site and have a formal dress code. I get on the elevator and there is this young girl I work with dressed in an oversized cow costume. She didn't get the memo apparently. Then, it just so happens that the VP also gets on. Nobody says anything, but I could feel her embarrassment the entire elevator ride as this solo cow rides the elevator surrounded by people in suits. I work in a research lab. There are a lot of foreign people here. Like, just printed visa. Not a word of English foreign. There are often t-shirts in English that were bought in other countries. My favorite was a very sweet tiny, pregnant Chinese woman wearing a maternity shirt that said "Oops, I did IT again." We had a human resources manager that would wear sheer white dress shirts to work. Her nips were dark as heck and you could see them across the room through the shirt. In the sun, you could almost see through the shirts. This started a few months after the sale of the company to another firm. They moved their own people into top management positions. A month or two into the wardrobe change, the general manager made an inappropriate pass at her. She sued and was awarded close to 10 years worth of her salary. Clever. In times of uncertainty she made her future just significantly more secure. Worked in call centers for many years. Seen a few. Lots of poor choices. Current employer is awesome. And the dress code is basically no pajamas, no visible underwear. And if you stink, we have showers, use them before work. Neon hair, piercings, tattoos, it's all good. C-level management has been known to run around in shorts and t-shirts. The CEO does press conferences wearing jeans. Casual is absolutely fine. Company also pays very well. Has good benefits. Great work environment. I'm constantly surprised by the number of people who abuse the system and push the rules. Saw one newish hire recently wearing a strapless tube top, no bra, a super tight mini skirt, no panty lines, and stripper boots. Raised an eyebrow. Wondered how long she would last. There seems to be an inverse relationship between the NSFW-ness of the new hire's outfit and their ability to actually do the job. I mean, she wasn't technically violating the dress code. No visible underwear. Sigh. Elderly black man showed up in booty jean shorts on the first day of summer. Wore suits like George Jefferson the rest of the year. He retired soon after. One time I wore a black high-vis shirt instead of the OHSA approved orange or chartreuse high-vis. Nothing happened. How can a black shirt be high visibility? When I was in college working for our student government, one of my co-workers showed up in tights that were so small you could clearly see every outline of her vagina. Not to be graphic, but she was a small girl. With a larger area, there was a lot to notice. Our boss told her to go home and get changed. She got her back up about slut shaming. What preceded was an embarrassing hour-long meeting with her, our boss, the student government president, the dean, our internal ombudsman and legal counsel. Like, on the spot. It was in an office, which didn't have good soundproofing, so I heard the whole affair. She sounded willing to concede defeat after 5 minutes. But that shit kept going. I wasn't even involved nor had to deal with any of it. But listening to it gave me chest palpitations from second-hand embarrassment. At the risk of sounding dumb, hell, it's Reddit. But still, having worked in an all-guy office for the last decade, I have no frame of reference for this. Though boy howdy, it'd be bad if I did. But if a woman at work is wearing tights that pretty clearly show panty lines or vag contours, dunces. I'm wondering, how does one bring this up without at least partially looking skeezy in their own right, because you kinda have to be scrutinizing her ass to verify this? It's not like she's literally bottomless or wearing a miniskirt. Military 05, Army LTC, wearing thin spandex with no underwear and skin-tight tanker's top while on the job in a deployed location. She didn't last the rotation. Lol, I had 03 show up to payday activities braless and brief the whole company with her very prominent nipples on full display. Months later she would walk around the bee huts in spandex volleyball shorts and sports bras. Turns out she was married to a SF major so couldn't be touched. This one woman just skipped on panties sometimes. She wore a skirt every day. Working in bookkeeping so people were rarely there. But every once in a while I'd notice and try not to look. Go to air out the bits. Ducking like and subscribe.